Welcome back to another Ret Paladin video. Verabin here. Today we are looking at the 9.1 PTR, specifically the Soulbind changes. There's been a lot of really sweeping changes to how Soulbinds are going to work. There's expanding the system. They're adding more Soulbinds, more conduit slots, all that good stuff. Some of these are really strong, so we're going to look at all the different 4 covenants, see if that makes any difference for Ret Paladin's best in slot covenant. So stick around. Let's take a look. Alright, so the first thing to point out is that all of the new Soulbinds are going to give you access to a brand new potency conduit, an endurance conduit, and a finesse conduit. So you're going to make a choice between the latter 2 at the bottom of each tree. They all look exactly the same, as you can tell, but having access to another potency conduit is just going to increase our throughput quite a bit, so that's going to be a welcome addition. As far as which of these Soulbinds is still going to be the best for Kyrian, I believe that Pelagos is still going to be extremely strong. There are some really cool abilities in these other Soulbinds that I wanted to point out. Under Mechanicos, you can see over here on this one, after taking physical or magic damage, you gain a shield that absorbs 8% of your maximum health for 10 seconds. It can occur once every 30 seconds, and then it looks like it can occur once for magic and once for physical. So that's actually pretty cool, kind of defensive there. And then for Clea gets access to another one that's sort of defensive for your teammates, definitely for PvP. File Serenity reduces your damage by 10% for 8 seconds. Its effects are also granted to your lowest health ally. So I believe what that means is that all of the healing and the magic cleanse and all that stuff is actually going to appear, actually going to work for your ally as well. So that's pretty cool. But Pelagos gets one that's even better. This one is amazing. At any point during combat, there's a low chance your doubt will manifest for 10 seconds. Directly facing your doubt will overcome it. 12% strength and stamina for 15 seconds. Incredible. This is going to be extremely good in both PvP and PvE, assuming this procs a relatively common amount of time. Hopefully it procs at the beginning of combat. It's going to give you 12% strength. It's going to be extremely good for burst. So I still think for Kyrian, Pelagos is going to be the way to go. Alright, so for Night Fae, I did hop over to my mage who's already on Night Fae to look at the Soulbinds. I didn't see anything too crazy on Night Fae. There's a few kind of interesting ones at the bottom of the tree, but one of the ones that I wanted to point out was this one under the Dreamweaver. And when you take damage below 80% health, you gain a shield for 30% of the damage amount lasting 3 seconds. So basically what that means is that you're going to get a 30% shield every single time you take damage when you're below 80% health. In PvP, that's going to happen almost all the time. You're constantly going to be below 80% health. And potentially, there's going to be some big hits that you take, like a 10k hit, and you're going to immediately get a 3k shield. So that could actually be really good. I'm thinking in RBGs, this is going to be extremely strong. So this is an interesting one. I don't know that it's going to bring up Night Fae into this viable situation for Ret, but it's definitely an interesting one. And then at the bottom, you get kind of a boring, just kind of stacking damage and healing. So that's kind of interesting. One of the things that it works well for Ret, right? Because we're going to be doing damage and we're going to be healing ourselves. So you're going to kind of get just a 3% healing and 3% damage all the time. So kind of decent, actually. I don't know that it's going to bring this one up to be better, but it's still a pretty good buff to Night Fae. We're going to hop over to the Wowhead posting for the changes, and these have some really cool changes. So the biggest one that's on here is the first one for Nausea, and this is when the haste effects with Euphoria ends, and that's the 20% haste that you get from the Thrill Seeker Soulbind that's at the very top of the Nausea Soulbind. And basically, you gain 10 seconds of 20% crit chance or versatility, whichever you have more of. So both in PvP and in PvE, you're likely to have more versatility. It kind of depends on the gear that you have and stuff like that. I guess in PvE, it's possible that you have more critical strike chance. It's not clear if it's the percentage, as in do you have more critical strike percent versus versatility percent, or is it based on the flat rating? So it's not really clear from this tooltip. But either way, it looks like this is going to be a really good increase to throughput, both in PvP and in PvE. So that is pretty interesting. There aren't any other crazy changes here for Venthyr. You're unlikely to use General Draven, and Theotar is another one that you might use. But what kind of sucks is that at the very bottom of the Theotar, it's actually a pretty decent buff, but it's only going to be applicable in PvE. So in PvE, it's actually going to be decent for rating. You're going to be able to increase your primary stat by 3%, or your haste by 3%, or your crit, or your versatility for 1 hour. So that's actually kind of cool. but it's something that is probably only really going to be useful for Raiders or Mythic Plus. It's going to give you absolutely nothing in PvP. I assume this will be disabled in PvP. So that's not all that great. So if you're using Venthyr and you are running Nausea, that's actually going to be a pretty decent increase to your throughput, and it's probably going to make Venthyr a decent pick for PvP. Some Ret players may already be using Venthyr in PvE, so you're going to get a pretty good chunk of DPS from this one. Now, Necrolord actually has some really interesting new Soulbinds here, so let's take a look at a couple of them. So the first one I wanted to point out was Resilient Stitching, and this is going to be one of the bottom ones under Emini, and while you're above 90% health, you get a shield that absorbs this amount of magic damage for 1 second. So if you have 40,000 health and 30% verse, like you probably would have in PvP, this is going to give you about almost 8,000 health. So this can only happen once every 1 minute. So it's kind of like a Battle Master's Trinket or something like that. So it only absorbs magic damage, so it's not going to be useful against people like monks or warriors, but it's going to be useful against everybody else. So it's actually pretty good. This seems like an interesting one that's going to give you a lot of survivability, both in PvP and actually in PvE, as long as you're stacking some versatility. But the versatility part of it's not going to be all that great. It's going to be 15% of your HP regardless. So that's actually going to be pretty good. There's a couple other ones that I wanted to point out. This next one under Bonesmith, damaging an enemy above 90% health grants you 199 mastery for 5 seconds. It stacks up to 5 times. There's no way that this is going to be 199 mastery times 5 in PvP. It cannot be that, because this would mean that you would pop up and have 1,000 mastery at the beginning of a fight for 10 seconds. So, or I'm sorry, for 5 seconds. So it stacks up to 5 times. So I don't know. I think that would mean that you would hit the person, and then within the next 5 seconds, you hit them again. It stacks again, and it refreshes the duration. So that seems extremely strong. I have to imagine that it's nerfed in PvP. In PvE, this isn't going to be all that great. Maybe in Mythic Plus, it might be decent because you could hit different enemies, and you could stack that up, and you could kind of have that mastery bonus pop for a while. This seems extremely strong. I can't imagine this going live the way it is. In PvP, it's definitely going to get a reduction in this amount of mastery. It's probably going to be cut in half or something like that. But honestly, even if it's cut in half, it's still 500 mastery that you're going to get on your initial burst damage. That's going to be insane. I think it's honestly going to be... It's going to potentially bring Necrolord right up on Kyrian's level, because you're still going to get the Fleshcraft and all that good stuff. You're still going to get the other stuff that you get from Bonesmith as well. So that's definitely an interesting one. And then the other thing is that you're going to get this Waking Bone Breastplate, which is the final one at the bottom. And when 3 or more enemies are nearby, you're going to get 5% increased HP. So that's going to help you out a little bit. And then that's really the only big ones that I saw. The Plague Divisor ones weren't that good. All right, so for now, I believe that the Necrolord changes are so significant that in PvP, it is possible that Necrolord is going to be a really strong pick. A lot of it depends on the tuning that happens on the Soulbinds and how much that mastery bonus is going to be. I don't see Night Fae jumping up ahead. I don't see Venthyr necessarily jumping ahead. I think that Venthyr already has a decent place in PvE for Ret. In PvP, I'm not sure it's going to jump the line ahead of Kyrian, because Kyrian is getting a really good throughput increase as well from the final level of Pelagos. We're still going to see a really strong throughput increase from that one as well, but the Necrolord one seems incredibly overpowered to me. I can't imagine it's going to go live the way that it goes live, but if it does, then I think that we're going to have 2 very competitive Soulbinds and / Covenants for PvP at least. And in PvE, I think in Mythic Plus, the Necrolord is potentially going to be a pretty decent pick as well, because you're going to have that mastery buff up constantly. All right, let me know in the comments below if you agree or you disagree. Did I miss something? Please let me know below. As always, please be sure to hodge that like button as well. Subscribe if you have not already. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.